healdsburg.org y vamos a hablar acerca de qué es lo que está sucediendo en Healdsburg conectado a Roseland. And so what we're going to do is we're going to talk briefly about what's happening in Healdsburg and in Roseland. It came to my attention a couple of weeks ago or so that a new principal at Healdsburg High School had been hired, but that there were questions in regards to the process that was followed or not followed to hire this individual. And then the Press Democrat released an article at some point stating that the superintendent of Roseland, who now was becoming the principal of Healdsburg, had left her position halfway through the year during a challenging time because of the pandemic and other issues. And as a result of that, I started asking questions. Parents in Healdsburg were very uncomfortable about what they read on the newspaper. They asked the administration, the superintendent, what was going on. Public meetings have taken place. And I reached out to the superintendent of Healdsburg to ask a few questions. And in reality, the answers that we got are not necessarily clear, right? So it's important for us to continue the conversation. What I asked were questions about, how was the process determined, what was the process to determine that this individual would take the spot? And as a result of that, we were told that the district creates representative committees or interview panels to gather as many viewpoints as possible, and that then that information of who may be chosen to be the top candidates is referred to the superintendent, and that ultimately it is the superintendent and the school board that determines who's going to be able to get the job. And then when I asked questions, again, the superintendent said that he wasn't available for an on-camera interview or a radio interview because it's the end of the year and he doesn't have the time, but he was willing to answer questions in writing. Some of the responses were very, very quick. And so one of the questions I also asked was, now that over 2,000 people have signed a petition that says that there was no transparency in the process, what are you going to do in response to that? And he said that given some of the accusations about the Roseland district that recently have come up or have come to light, and this is a quote, "I understand why there is concern. We will be following up on those accusations and conducting a thorough inquiry. We always keep the well-being of our students paramount and will address any issues that are uncovered. And we want our students, parents, and community to feel like they can trust and work with Ms. Jones Kerr as principal of the high school." And we know that there was a public meeting last Thursday. And my question to the superintendent was, it seemed like, and it was reported by multiple people, that the superintendent kept pointing out one young female student as the one who started the petition and the one who started it all. And so my question to him was, could you tell us why in the last 2 weeks you have chosen to meet with students, but according to one of them, you did not want parents present? Again, this points to the idea of intimidation of students, which would be the same idea if he kept naming the same student multiple times in a public meeting. He says, "I have not met with students in the last 2 weeks, though I have offered. Last Thursday was the first time I met with any students and parents were present." Again, this is important because, again, the students reported to me that when the superintendent offered to meet with them, they asked if their parents could be present. And according to them, he had said no. And this is all documented. And then he says, when I mentioned a student who had started the petition, it was in the context of telling the group that we value student voice which we do, which is why we are investigating the concerns that have been raised. I provided past examples where students have engaged in marches and walkouts without any issues, and personally guarantee that there would be no negative repercussions for bringing their voices to light. And I'm sharing that publicly because there is discussion from what it's or understanding that there may be a walkout next week if the students don't hear exactly what's going to happen on behalf of the superintendent, what's going to happen soon. And so some parents have reported, some students have reported that it appears that the superintendent may be delaying some action, hoping that the school year may end. And as a result of that, everybody's going to go for the summer break and people will forget about this. So again, it is important that people understand this. Now, my last question to the superintendent was this. Attached, you will find a document of the last evaluation of Ms. Jones Kerr. And again, I had redacted some of the names, but the document was provided to this reporter by a confidential source. And I said, once you have taken the time to review it, can you tell me what your next steps will be in determining the future of Ms. Jones Kerr with the Healdsburg Unified School District? His response was, quote, if this document is indeed Ms. Jones Kerr's evaluation, it is confidential personnel document and appears to have been illegally distributed. It will therefore not I will therefore not comment on it, and such questions should be directed to the Roseland School District. And I'll get to that in a second. I also sent the same document for comment to the Healdsburg Unified School District, and I finally got a response today from the president of the board, Araceli Romo Flores, and she says, dear Rafael, on behalf of the Healdsburg Unified School District Board, we hear the concerns and we are responding. Our Board of Education and the superintendent want to do all that we can to ensure that our school district and our community, including staff, students, and families, has great confidence in the members of the team, including the new principal at Healdsburg High School. While Ms. Jones Kerr was fully vetted during the interview and background checkpoint process, our superintendent believes it is the best interest of all involved to investigate the allegations shared by some of the members of the Roseland School District, and following that investigation, we will act on facts. We are grateful to Mrs. Jones Kerr for her support of the investigation, as she too believes that this is a prudent step. And the document continues on. In regards to contacting the Roseland School District, it is important that people understand that this investigation on my part is not just about Ms. Jones Kerr, but it's about multiple reports by students who have gone public and have stated about, again, having been the victims of racism. And so among the many things that I am requesting, and I did request a public records request with Roseland to Ms. Lori Biggers, who is the current superintendent, interim superintendent of the district. And I asked for each school in their district for the breakdown by ethnicity of the students, the faculty, and the administrators. For being a school with the highest number of Latinx students, the report so far, we're waiting for all this response. She responded to me and she said she'll have it for me by tomorrow or next Tuesday. Either way, next week, I will have more information for you all. But again, what students and other individuals have commented is for being Latinx, community school, I should say, or charter school, most of the teachers are white, and most of them don't speak Spanish. Most of them do not understand necessarily the community. This is what we have heard. Two, I also requested for each school in the district, what is the number of students and how many of them are listed as English language learners, to also include how many of them are at risk of becoming long-term English language learners. For each school in the district, I also requested How many of those students have IEPs, individualized educational plan? I met with 2 individuals yesterday who clarified for me, but they are fearful of retaliation, that their sister went through the system. And one of the things that other people have noticed is in elementary school, children with IEPs continue to move forward, but in middle school, they start disappearing from the district. And by high school, nobody seems to know or remember any of their friends with IEPs who are actually attending that school. So that's why I'm requesting that information. I also want to let you know that you all, as community members, have the right to ask for this type of information. I also asked for one document, which most people don't know exists. It's called the unaudited actuals. There is, and I'm not going to say the amount of millions of dollars that possibly are there, but because I'm waiting for the report to confirm that. But if in fact there is so much money in reserves there, then we have to ask a following question, and that is, why is it that students don't do as well when they go to community college or universities? Why would the money be kept there instead of providing after-school tutoring and other resources for the students? So we're waiting for that. And the final item I requested was, I wanted to know the names, the positions, the titles, and the annual salaries for the years 2018, 2019, and 2020 of every employee at the Roseland School District. We need to be transparent. And the questions that are coming up about Ms. Jones Kerr are bringing up more questions about the Roseland School District. So I hope to have more information for you. I hope to have more information that the community can find useful, because if something is wrong, this is the time that we need to change the systems. We'll be back with you after a few minutes. This is KBB. Entonces, es importante. Voy a continuar poniendo información acerca de qué está sucediendo con Roseland. Pedí documentación para que ellos nos digan qué es lo que está sucediendo.